And Yossi, thank you for joining us this evening. Will you please rise for the pledge? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I appreciate your joining us for our monthly voting meeting this evening. There'll be a slight change in the agenda, which you'll hear as we go through it. But we'll start with Mason with the roll call.
Ms. Bates? Mr. Eden?
Here.
Mrs. Fryrick?
Here.
Mrs. Leopold Sharp?
Here.
Mr. Posnow?
Here.
Mr. Robinson?
Here.
Mrs. Schrader?
Here.
Ms. Schaefer?
Here.
Mr. Toman?
Here.
There are two times for public comment in this evening's voting meeting, now at the beginning of the meeting and again at the conclusion of the meeting. If there's any topics that you would like to present to us, you're invited to step to the microphone to share your name and street address. And those comments are directed to the board president and are limited to 5 minutes. So is there anyone who would like to make a comment now at the start of the meeting? Seeing none, we'll move on. Discussion and action on our board minutes. I would move approval of the board minutes of the special meeting and planning meeting held February 13th, 2017, and our regular monthly meeting of January 23rd, 2017.
Second.
Excellent. No corrections or additions, then those will be filed as presented. Mr. Posnow, the Treasurer's Report, please.
Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items. Second.
Any questions, discussions? Ms. Mason? We'll do a short roll call for that.
This will be considered an unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
And I'm going to ask Mr. Eden to move the Personnel Committee report up now before the Board President's report so that we can provide some earlier bedtimes for some people in the audience. Mr. Eden.
Anyone who's following the agenda, there is an addendum at the end of this agenda with additional items. You have before you the personnel report, which includes retirement, resignation, appointment, employment, leave of absence, granting of professional tenure, building reassignments, guest teacher, volunteer spring coach, volunteers and substitute teachers. Would any board member like any of these items considered separately, or are there any questions on any of these items? If not, the chair moves approval of the below-mentioned items.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Ms. Mason, let's do a regular roll call for that.
Toman?
Yes.
Schrader?
Yes.
Posnow?
Yes.
Eden?
Yes.
Schaefer?
Yes.
Fryrick?
Yes.
Leopold Sharp?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Anything else, Mr. Eden?
I'm just sorry to see Jennifer Nolte again. I didn't know she was retired. And Bob Laird, I had as a chemistry teacher. Actually, he was my basketball coach. Sad to see him.
All right, thank you. Dr. Merkel.
I would like to acknowledge, we have a number of retirements on the agenda tonight, a lot of years of experience. We will be losing 2 administrative assistants who've been very valuable to us. Judy Everett, our administrative assistant in the middle school guidance office, after 27 years with York Suburban. That's quite a tenure for an administrative assistant particularly. Cindy Landis is also retiring. She works with Dr. Maloney and Mrs. Gross. Does a lot of work around the Ed Center and fills in as needed, but 15 years with us and 25 years total. So both of our administrative assistants will certainly be missed. And we have what we believe will be our last 3 retirements announced in the teacher ranks, with Mr. Laird, 35 and a half years. 35 and a half years of teaching is a lot of years of service. A lot of mixed emotions on his part, but eagerly awaiting his retirement. Dr. Mummert has had a difficult year with an ailing husband and made a last-minute decision to retire. That's 2 members of our high school math department, another big loss, 21 years. And Mrs. Nolte, 28 years with York Suburban, 36 years in education. That's an amazing career. We're losing some outstanding educators this year, as I've mentioned, and just kudos to each of them and public recognition for many years of service. And then I'd like to, on a more positive note, introduce a new hire we have here with us this evening, Rosemary Nestler. Rosemary, if you'll please stand. Ms. Nestler completed her final interview this morning. And had a whirlwind afternoon, is living in Waynesboro, so drove back to Waynesboro, accepted the offer, and returned for the board meeting. So we made a special effort with her. She has her two daughters here. If you'll introduce them, Rosemary. And we invited them to join us and give them the opportunity to see Mom signing her contract. So Ms. Nestler comes to us with background in library media specialist, both from Camp Hill and most recently at Waynesboro, and she'll be starting at the middle school no later than April 30th, but that's to be determined between the two superintendents. We'll get her as soon as we can, but we're looking forward to having her. Congratulations and welcome.
And as always, please exit with Dr. Maloney and sign your contract. And make sure that she provides you with special orange and black pens.
We don't have any pens.
There are no pens left.
Pins.
Oh, pens. Oh, that's maybe better, Dr. Merkel. Yes.
May I just chime in, the retirees, if my math skills are working, that's 92 years of teaching that those three teachers who are retiring are taking with them, and my family had the good fortune of learning under those teachers as well, and I just, my hat's off. I mean, anytime you think about somebody with 38 years, you know, stuck with it that long, again, my hat's off. Thank you.
Any other comments? All right, let's move back now. We'll go to the board president's report. I need to report that the board met in executive session following our special meeting on February 13th, as permitted by Section 707 of the Sunshine Act, for the purpose of discussing personnel matters. We did not take any official action. And we also met prior to this evening's meeting, and contrary to item 3B and to the header at the top of the agenda, we did not meet in executive session. We actually met for a board educational workshop this evening from 6 to 7 p.m., as permitted by the Sunshine Act. We did not take any official action, but we learned a lot. That would conclude my report. Dr. Merkel.
Thank you. And prior to, I'd like to add one component to the superintendent's report. We had our good neighbors, the Jewish Community Center across the street today, had an evacuation due to a bomb threat, and they very smoothly, they did a phenomenal job evacuating to our high school 150 students, children from the daycare facility. Very well managed on their part. This is the second occurrence of an evacuation. One a time a year ago was for a safety situation, and the growth that they experienced in terms of the management of the evacuation and then the reunification with parents was phenomenal. They did a really outstanding job. We were pleased to be able to assist and to be good neighbors with them. I received several phone calls and actually just received another email from some folks who appreciated York Suburban hosting them, and our administration on the scene did a great job with that as well. So public should be aware of that good relationship we have with our neighbors. Now to the printed items on the agenda. The student enrollment report is provided for you. There are no significant changes or points of interest if there's no questions. I'll move on to the second item, and that is it's with great pleasure that the administration recommends board approval of the implementation of an emotional support program at the primary level.
Second. Is there any discussion or questions for Dr. Merkel? Ms. Mason, would you do that as a roll call vote?
Tillman,
Yes.
Schrader,
Yes.
Freireich,
Yes.
Eden,
Yes.
Schaefer,
Yes.
Posnow,
Yes.
Leopold Sharp,
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
That's terrific news for the district, for the students that will be affected by this, and we're really excited about this and see it as another growth opportunity for our primary levels. I congratulate and thank Mrs. Hassenfuss for her great work in pulling this together. I congratulate and thank the teachers of our ES program now that we have in place. Because of their outstanding work, they've paved the way to allow growth of this program. So it's an exciting new venture for us, but one we think we're very well prepared to tackle. So thank you to the board for your support. And finally, board members are invited to meet with East York Elementary staff members tomorrow morning at 7:30 a.m. for an informal breakfast with the board discussion. A number of you have RSVP'd, and we appreciate that, and we'll look forward to seeing any board members who wish to join that meeting tomorrow morning at 7:30. It would seem that this next question is related to that. It's actually not, but if any board members have food allergies, if you'll please let me know that by email. We need to know that for our next meeting. Okay? Thank you. Our next meeting, yes. There'll be a special surprise.
Oh, the next board meeting.
The next board meeting, correct, yes.
Okay. Any questions for Dr. Merkel? Let's move on, Ms. Mason, to the business office report.
Thank you. The administration recommends board approval of the proposed Lincoln Intermediate Unit 2017-18 general operating budget.
Moved.
Second.
Any questions? Ms. Mason, would you prefer that we pass these budgets by a roll call vote, or is the short roll call adequate?
Short roll is fine to me.
Well, let's do the short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the proposed York Adams Academy 2017-18 general operating budget.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or discussion? Short roll call, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends awarding the bid to TRS Roofing, Inc. for the high school roof replacement in the amount of $2,311,000.
So moved.
Any questions? Ms. Frierick.
Since this is I believe, a somewhat new contractor, I'm sure they've been vetted. Have they done other school buildings in?
Yes.
Who have they done, may I ask? What districts?
Oh, I don't have the list with me.
Here in York County? Just out of curiosity, since they are, new to us.
Yes, and they were vetted by both our solicitor and the architect.
Okay, now I was just curious who else that we might know has used them.
Any other questions? We'll have a short roll call on that, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends awarding the bid to A-Turf for the synthetic turf replacement at the stadium in the amount of $579,339.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
This was the same company that did the...
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Did
The other fee.
Trojan.
All right, thank you, Ms. Mason. Short roll call on that.
Will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the contract with Simplex Grinnell in the amount of $38,562 for the high school fire alarm panels.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Short roll call.
Will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the letter of understanding with Invent Now, Inc. to provide curricula and course materials for the summer education enrichment program for a license fee of $6,250 for the program.
Second.
Any questions? Short roll call.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval of the engineering services contract with Barton Associates, Inc. for the high school water heater replacement project for a cost of $14,500.
So moved.
Second.
Any questions or discussions? Short roll call vote.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. The administration recommends board approval to advertise and solicit bids for the high school water heater replacement project.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion or questions? Ms.
This
Farber?
topic actually did come up in a facilities meeting last week. We had a representative from Barton Associates here to talk to us about this, and although it's not in the capital project list as of last week, we felt that it was important enough to be handled this summer and put out for bids as soon as possible. They're projecting somewhere in the neighborhood of $360,000 to this project.
Thank you. We'll short roll call, Ms. Mason.
This will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes. Budget update, I handed out to each of you.
And are there copies there as well, Ms. Mason, on the table?
No, I did not make extra.
Okay.
This is a follow-up to the one you received on January 23rd. The items are highlighted that changed. You will notice there are several changes. Most of that is because of actually changes in chart of account descriptions that were given to us by PDE, and some were increases and decreases due to continued work on the budget. If you'll see right now, when we started this process, we were at a $2.4 million gap. In January, we were at 2.2. This report shows we're at 1.9.
Going
So
in the right direction.
we're going in the right direction.
All right, thank you.
Any questions on the dining report or the sales report?
Ms. Farber?
One, there was, if you look at Whitson's report that's attached, they said the following safety concern was presented, regarding some doors doors directly exposed to the outside may not have visible openings. Is this something that the district has to address or is of any concern? It's on page 4 of the Whitson's report.
We are working through this with our maintenance and our architect.
I assume, I just wanted
Yeah.
to clarify that. Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Mason?
That concludes my report.
And just for the public's information, all of those votes that we just took with no discussion, as though we just were perfectly happy to spend everyone's money, those topics had all been discussed, many of them in our facilities committee meeting, where there was in-depth discussion of those agreements that were related to facilities, or at our planning committee meeting. So this monthly voting meeting is where we actually conduct legal business, but there's much less conversation now than there is in our first meeting of the month. So I just wanted to invite you to come back if you'd like to hear more of the discussion. Mr. Stewart, the student board report, student rep report.
So the first thing on my agenda is Mini-thon that occurred this past Friday. It was a huge success. We had 461 kids registered to come, and I'm pretty sure most of them came. We raised $70,820. With the Four Diamonds Foundation, which helps to comfort families during their struggle with pediatric cancer. So every year we've gone up and we've increased our goal. And this year the goal was $80,000, which is a high goal, but nobody complained about raising over $70,000, which is just phenomenal. Throughout the night there were so many activities to do: ice cream eating contest, dodgeball tournament, basketball tournament, sing-off contest, battle of the classes. There was always something to do. Zumba. Nobody was bored throughout the night. The beginning of Mini-thon started out with Family Hour, which went into the lives of 4 families and how they were affected by pediatric cancer, and how the Four Diamonds Foundation helps them, and these families were the Dodsons, the Hotchbergers, the Howes, and the Goldens. So that's the gist of Minithon. It was an incredible experience, and everybody has a good time. So, very fun. The Quiz Bowl team has their first match today in the playoffs. I don't know who they're playing against, but I hope they did well. The girls basketball, last Friday, they lost their first district game to Bishop McDevitt. So close. They lost 41-38. It was a nail-biter throughout the entire game. They were winning by 1 point with 45 seconds left to go. The other team scored, stole the ball back, and scored again. It was just, throughout the whole game, just very intense. But it was very good because they were ranked 3rd and we were ranked 6th, so they weren't even expecting us to come out there and be so aggressive and defensive. However, tomorrow we play against Wyomissing. It's our last chance to go to states. Because we were ranked so high, we have 2 district games to play. So if we beat Wyomissing like we're predicted to, we'll go to states, which is very exciting. The musical is this Friday and Saturday. It's the pajama game, which means that this entire week is Crash Week, where they're there every day after school, just pumping out as much as they can. The postseason swimmers, districts and states are approaching quickly, and everybody's hoping for good results. Spring sports start next Monday on March 6th. That includes, track, boys lacrosse, boys tennis, girls lacrosse, a variety of sports that everybody's excited for. And then finally, the end of the 3rd marking period is approaching quickly, and the only thing on the seniors' minds is graduation. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stewart? All right, let's move on to committee reports, and Mr. Eden already gave us the Personnel Committee report, so if you scroll down, the next report is Policy Review, Mr. Toman. Did I miss Communications?
And facilities.
Oh, my goodness, I apologize profusely. Communications, that's why Mr. Schaefer turned on the microphone.
Yeah. Actually, as noted, the minutes of December 1st are provided, and really nothing else to add because, of course, we have Mr. Stewart who provides such a comprehensive report, so I don't really need to add anything in addition as far as activities go, and of course the communications link is there as well.
Thank you.
That's it.
Mrs. Fryrick, Facilities Committee.
Just to report that you have the minutes of the November 16th meeting are provided. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Toman, the Policy Review Committee down at the bottom.
The minutes of our December 13th and January 17th meetings are provided. The Policy Review Committee recommends board approval of the 8 policies listed on the screen, and the chairman moves for approval of those policies.
Any questions or discussions about the policy revisions? Hearing none, Ms. Mason, a short roll call on that.
Will be considered a unanimous roll call vote unless I hear votes to the contrary. Hearing none, motion passes.
Are there any other committee chairs who wish to report? If not, Mr. Robertson, Lincoln Intermediate Unit.
It's all quiet at the Lincoln Intermediate Unit except for the election. I'll be concluding my term in June and then retire to the privacy of my home to write my memoirs.
Thank you very much, sir. Mrs. Fryrick, the York Adams Academy.
Nothing to report except that we do have 11 students, as you saw in the report tonight, currently enrolled, and we have a board meeting tomorrow evening at York Adams Academy.
Thank you. Ms. Mason, the York Adams Tax Bureau.
We had a meeting on January 30th, and that was for the purposes of reorganization.
Any questions? Mrs. Schrader, York County School of Technology.
Yes, I'd like to just let the board know that one of our York Suburban students, Alex Weinrich, won a gold medal in the Skills USA regional competition that was held in January, and just wanted to, for the record, let him know that we're proud of him. That was in electrical construction wiring. And that concludes my report.
This is the second time when we, well, no, actually not quite yet. We would recognize visitors if there are any visitors here. I see a couple unfamiliar faces. Welcome. Our board meeting, a committee meeting, is linked to our public agenda. If you'd like to join us for any of those meetings, they're all open to the public in this building. And then this would be the second time during our monthly meeting when we invite public comment. So if you have any comments to make about anything, something related to that the school board would be involved with, feel free to step up to the mic, share your name and address, and make your comment. Hearing none, then I will adjourn this meeting and ask the board to come back in about 5 minutes for a very brief follow-up executive session. Thank you very much for coming. Good evening.
Thank you.